Well, good evening, YA. What is going on? What is happening? All right. So, like Matt said, if this is your first time hanging out with us, my name is Jakeem Morgan. I get the privilege of leading, partnering with a few of our other pastors here, leading this community here. It's one of my greatest privileges. And Thursday is my favorite night of the week. If this is your first time hanging out, welcome, welcome, welcome. We love you and are so glad that you're here. Make sure you check out our Welcome Home Center. We have a lot of people that would just love to meet you, but we won't make it too awkward. Well, I may make it awkward because I have no muzzle. I'm sorry. I'm going to try my best. But there's people that would just love to meet you and give you a gift. Yeah, man, we're super excited just for tonight and what's in store. Like Matt said, we're actually in between series. And what that means is that we get to do a one-off, and if I'm speaking, that means I get to talk about whatever I want. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're going to find out in just a few minutes. But no, it really is a fun time because that means I just get to see what the Lord has placed in my heart. And I believe that he has placed something that really, when I dive into it, something that I've been dealing with and walking with. And really God's been kind of showing me that I'm like, wow, if this is going to preach to me, maybe I should share this. So it's going to be good. But before we go there, if you're checking us out online, welcome as well. When you get a free Thursday, or if you get in the neighborhood, come hang out with us. We would love that you're with us. And lastly, man, Matt mentioned our survey. I want to encourage you, please fill out the survey. It's super important for us to continue to serve the community well. So many of you guys have already, I think we have over 100 responses, which is awesome. That means it's good. Somebody, I thought I heard a clap. You can go ahead and clap for that. That's good. Yeah, 100. I thought I heard somebody like, is this like, you like want to start the slow clap? But they were like, I don't know if I should. So it was like one. Anyway, no, the response has been awesome. So it's really good. We're going to talk about that in a few weeks. I'm going to come and share my heart, myself and Vic. We're going to come and talk and speak about that. But it's going to be good. So outside of that, I'm ready for tonight. Y'all ready for tonight? All right. I know Matt prayed, but I'm going to go ahead and pray myself too, if that's okay. So why don't you just bow your heads with me? Jesus, thank you so much just for tonight. Thank you so much, God, for this space that we get a chance to call home, that we get to be in community, God, that we can fellowship with one another. And we're just so excited for what you have in store. So we just pray, God, that you move me out the way, that you do what you want to do. In Jesus' name, amen. So like I said, tonight, when I look is really, even though it's a message, I think, for all of us, and I feel like each week I try to come and like, okay, I'm preaching, what am I taking away? Well, God preached to me, like preaching to myself. But tonight, if there's any night that I feel like, all right, man, I'm like preaching at the same time, but like sitting at the same time, like this is one of those messages. Like I feel like the Lord is really been moving in my heart in this. And before I kind of dive into that, I have a confession to make. That confession is this, is that I am like the ultimate pursuer of convenience. Like, however way possible, convenience is something that I'm pursuing all the time. I literally live by the motto of like, work smarter, not harder. Like, no matter, like if there are things that can make my life more expedient, make faster, make it easier, like that is what I'm aiming for. So for example, it's like Amazon Prime is my best friend. Like the Lord is working on me, but I say, man, when I'm like, dude, 128, I think it is. It was less when I was in school, and one click, and I get something in 2 days. One day, I'm the person that's like $3.99 for one day shipping. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Like that. That's me. Like I'm that guy. I'm the Apple product guy primarily because it's like, well, that means I can sync my Apple Watch to my iPad and my iPad to my iPhone and my iPhone to my home Mac and then my like I'm that guy because it's like, oh, I'll start a document here, and it's so convenient because I can start a document here. Then it's like, well, let me finish this document. That's me though. That is who I am. I'm like this ultimate pursuer of convenience, even to the point where I'm like, I actually don't remember any of my passwords. I probably shouldn't be saying this out loud, and definitely if anybody's checking us on YouTube later, because then they might try to get my phone and know if I'm falling asleep, like put my thumbprint down or like screen my face. But I don't know really any of my passwords. Like everything is because there's these ways that's made it so easy and convenient for me. Like there's these things that are so easy and convenient. Like if there's a gadget that makes my life easier, I'm gonna get it. If there's an opportunity to make my life more convenient, I'm gonna take it, and I really don't even think twice. My niece, we were out of town, was actually like watching our house, and she kind of like, I don't know why she crashed in my room, but when I was out of town, she crashed in my room, and she was like everything's here. Like I have like my little desk that I can work on my bed, and then I have my stand with the air, and then it may be like a snack or two, and then it's like I have this thing where it can hold your phone, so you don't have to hold. Like it's just all of. She's like your room is just so like. She was like, I don't have to leave, and I'm like, it's kind of like this is just me. Like I've had this ultimate pursuit of convenience, right? I've had this ultimate pursuit of trying to make my life as easy as possible. But here's, like I said, if I'm preaching to myself or speaking to myself, one thing that I've learned is I have been learning that this need for personal convenience can easily be an enemy of serving and generosity. That if I'm being transparent, like I said, this is something that I'm struggling with. This is not something that I'm done with. But the reality is, like I said, if excuse me, I'm sorry, that when I'm like, that I'm learning that the need for personal convenience can be an enemy of serving and generosity. And if I'm being transparent, like I said, this is something that I'm dealing with, because when I look at my life, like even for example, when it comes to serving and generosity, if I was to ask myself that I would tell you that I'm a generous person, that I'm a giving person, and that I'm a selfless person, and that like I give money to the homeless, and that I buy people's food in line, and that I've even maybe paid for somebody's rent or buy people's coffee sometimes. And I would argue that I am like this generous person, right? But here's the thing, that when I began to look, that when I began to explore, I really noticed that I was really serving people only when it was convenient for me. That I was serving or being generous or loving people well sometimes really when it was convenient. And it came to light really a couple weeks ago, and I was going to see one of my young homies who used to be my youth, but he's older now, and was trying to catch up with him, and I drove all the way out to Riverside. I'm trying to connect. We haven't really connected in a while. I'm like, yo, man, what's up? Like, hey, let's go get like some food. Let's hang out. And he was like, oh, I'm moving. And I'm like, okay, no problem, man. Like, when are you going to be done? He was like, man, I'll probably be done around 6. And no biggie. I was like, okay, for sure. I'm going to come get you around 6. So I get up and I fight through Riverside traffic, and I pull up over there about 6, only to find out that he got pulled back and or that he got held back, and that he was still moving. We couldn't go get nothing to eat, right? He was still packing. So of course, my mind goes like, okay, I gotta, save face. I can't just leave. So I'm going to help, right, and serve. But I remember my attitude as I was in the car and I pulled up and he said that we couldn't go. I was just like so upset because I was inconvenienced, right? I have this opportunity because we were supposed to come get food, and now I have to help you pack, and I got a chance to really serve you and help you, and I am so upset. And the Lord really was checking me on my way home. And like I said, even though I help pack the thing, my heart in it was just awful. My heart in it was just awful because here's what I discovered, that I was completely okay with giving, doing, and serving as long as it didn't cost me too much, require too much sacrifice, or if it was convenient for me. That I was able to give you money if the bank account's okay right now, I could no problem, man. You need 20 here. No biggie. Oh, we're going out. Let me buy you a coffee. Let me check the. But when it came to, if it cost me something, if it put me in a place of inconvenience, or if me helping or serving or giving was going to cost me also to be in this place of hurting, or maybe we'll have to struggle together, but it helps get you through. I really had to sit and process, like, am I willing to make those sacrifices? Am I really willing, because of this desire or this pursuit for convenience, or this desire or pursuit for self-satisfaction, that this was a struggle for me. This is something that I am struggling with, like I said, even now, that sometimes now I got to walk through and like, all right, God, am I being generous? Am I really being generous? Or is this just like this acts, right? Literally acting in generosity. And this is something that I've been walking through. And here's the thing, and this is the reason I want to share this message and share this story. And we're going to walk through a passage in John 13. If you got your Bibles, you can go ahead and bring those out. But the reality is, like I said, I'm going to preach to myself, but I'm willing to bet that it's probably not just me, but that so many of us today are driven by this pursuit of convenience and personal satisfaction. And here's the reality. It's not that convenience is wrong, but for so many of us, our pursuit of convenience and self-satisfaction has hindered the way that we love and serve others. This desire for self-satisfaction, this desire for convenience, this desire to, have life maybe with ease, or to be comfortable, maybe is a word that we should use. That because of this pursuit for that, and our culture is just all about it, right? Our culture is all about ease, which is why there is Apple and Amazon Prime. Why? Because we all desire this convenience. But here's the thing. As followers of Jesus, it's a danger, and it's a danger of that pursuit that we need to be aware of. Because here's the reality. Like I said, having convenience in certain areas isn't wrong, but when it's a main focus, or it's a priority, this idea to be comfortable and have life convenient, and have life self-satisfied, what happens is if this is our main focus, if you're like me, what ends up happening is, man, it hinders the way we love and serve others. So this is what I want to do. Like I said, we're in John 13, and there's this story with Jesus, man, that there's just really just kind of this profound picture that I'm going to kind of walk through. So I'm going to read, and as you see, I don't have my TV today, because I just kind of want to walk through and pull out just a few points in the story, because this is something that's been helping me kind of walk through and wrestle with this idea. Because Jesus in this moment is really in a completely inconvenient place. He's really in a really kind of a stressful place, and he has this approach or this perspective, or he actually does some things that I'm like, if I can just add that or make this a part of my life, God, wow, who knows what you can do. So that's what I want to do. So I'm going to read. I'm actually going to read out the Message version. So if you don't have that, that's okay. I like it the way the story is told in here. And then, like I said, we're going to unpack it for you, okay? So this is John 13. And this is Jesus and the disciples hanging. It says, just before the Passover feast, Jesus knew that the time had come to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his dear companions, his disciples are with him. Having loved his dear companions, he continued to love them right to the end. It was supper time, and the devil by now had Judas, the son of Simon the Iscariot, firmly in his grip, all set for the betrayal. Jesus knew that the Father had put him in complete charge of everything. Jesus knew that the Father had put him in complete charge of everything. That he came from God and was on his way back to God. So he got up from the supper table, set aside his robe, and put on an apron. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with his apron. When he got to Simon Peter, Peter said, Master, you wash my feet? Come on, man, not about to happen. And Jesus answered, you don't understand now what I'm doing, but it will be clear enough to you later. Peter persisted, you are not going to wash my feet ever. And Jesus said, if I don't wash you, you cannot be a part of what I'm doing. Well, then Master Peter said, not only my feet, then wash my hands and my head too. And Jesus said, if you've had a bath in the morning, you only need your feet washed now and you will be clean from head to toe. My concern, you understand, is holiness, not hygiene. So now you're clean, but not every one of you. He knew he was getting betrayed. That's why he said, not every one of you. And after he was finished washing their feet, he took their robe, put it back on, and went back to his place at the table. A few more passages. Then he said, do you not understand what I have done to you? You address me as teacher and master, and that's rightfully so. That is what I am. So if I, the master and teacher, washed your feet, you must now wash each other's feet. For I've laid a pattern for you. What I've done, you do. I'm only pointing out the obvious. So let me kind of back up and paint this picture. So here it is. Jesus is at the near end of his ministry. Jesus has been doing ministry for about 3 years, and this right here is Passover weekend. He has his 12 disciples with him, and they're getting ready to have a Passover meal. But the reality is, man, is Jesus is actually only a few days away from the cross. That Jesus is a few days away from death, man. And his whole life, man, I can just imagine that even though, yes, Jesus is fully God, at the same time, he has the same experiences as being fully human. So I could just imagine, here he is in this place where the cross is literally a few days away, like it's literally a weekend away. He's a weekend away, and he's in this place, man, where not only is the cross near, he has this person that's betraying him, that's right next to him, and he knows about it. And here's the reality, man. I could imagine that if it was me and I'm in my last few moments, that his whole life has been a life of giving away. Right? It's been a life of healing and miracles and teaching and blessing and all these different things, man. This is his life. I would imagine in this moment that this would be a place where it's like, dude, like I'm dying in a couple days. Like I'm going to the cross in a couple days. I'm going to be tortured in a couple days. And I could just imagine where this is a moment where I'm like, dude, like I can't love right now. Y'all going to have to love on me. Like I can't give right now. I'm going to need y'all to encourage me. I need y'all to help me. I need y'all to push me through. And Jesus doesn't do that. He has this really, really, really profound moment. He has this profound moment, and there's some specific points that I believe really begin to stand out to deal with the idea, like I said, of this approach for convenience, or this pursuing of convenience, but taking that back and saying, what does it mean to give even despite convenience? So he kicks off and says this, man. Remember the first passage says this: just before the Passover feast, Jesus knew that the time had come to leave this world and go to the Father, having loved his dear companions. And it says he continued to love them right to the end. Here's what I love about Jesus in this picture. Here's what I just admire about Jesus in this picture, man, is that Jesus took advantage of every moment to do God's will and to love people. Because, like I said, just remember, Jesus is moments away from torture and death. Jesus is moments away. This is not a moment of convenience. This is not a moment where, oh man, me and the disciples were up on the hill praying. This is not a moment where me and Jesus were up, or me and my disciples maybe were out feeding people and like it's the hurrah. This isn't Palm Sunday where he's being worshiped. This is him knowing that at any moment, it could be the end. At any moment, that I could be on my way to the cross. At any moment. This is a moment of being completely inconvenient. I can't imagine him being satisfied at all. He cannot be in a place of joy or happiness. He can't be in a place where everything is okay. That this has to be a stressful moment because he's fully human, and I know that's how I would feel. That's how I would feel. But how he responds even in this inconvenient, unsatisfying moment is profound. Because it says, man, even in the midst of this, knowing this, man, it says that having loved his dear companions, even in this moment where, like I said, man, in this moment, it's going to be hard for me to love. It's going to be hard for me to give. I am stressing. I am anxious. I am dealing with a lot. Man, it says, even in, I love how the writer of this version wrote, it says he continued to love. Is that Jesus took advantage of every moment to do God's will and to love people. That even though this moment wasn't convenient, even though this moment wasn't satisfying, his focus was on God and loving people around him. The next thing, man, that stuck out that I like was this, man. It goes on, it says, right after, and it says, and Jesus knew that the Father had put him in complete charge of everything. That he came from God, was on his way back to God. So he got up from the supper table and set aside his robe and put on an apron. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the feet of the disciples, drying them with his apron. And here's another thing. The first thing I want to kind of point out is this, man, is that the thing that I bolded or highlighted was like, and Jesus knew that the Father had put him in complete charge of everything, and that he knew that he came from God, was on his way back to God. And that even kind of builds upon this whole idea in this place of where we're serving from, because Jesus used his position, his power, Jesus used his influence and used it to serve the people around him. I love that in this, there's no confusion that Jesus is who he is. That Jesus doesn't have any confusion. Doesn't have any lack of knowledge of knowing who he is. This is still Jesus who is Lord, right? Jesus who is God. But in this moment, there's no confusion. That he is Lord, he is God. As we read on in the rest of the passage, he's teacher. They call him master. Like this is this Jesus to him, right? And what he does next doesn't match the statement that was just being made by Jesus. Doesn't match the statement. It says, wow, like there's no confusion. He knows who he is, that Jesus has put me in charge of everything, that he's given me all power, that I am God, that I am the Son of God, that I am the Messiah, right? There is no confusion. He's all these things. But it goes on right after that. It kind of contrasts, and it says he got up from the supper table and set aside his robe and put on an apron and began to wash the disciples' feet. Literally what comes after that statement does not match what God had just said. And here's why. Just to give a little background, culture, context of feet washing. Feet washing is this, man. Back in the day, you're talking about dusty roads. They didn't have freeways. They didn't have the I-15. They have those things like that, right? You have dusty roads. So what would happen is, man, is when travelers would visit and become guests at homes, what would happen is the guest of the home, they had this kind of honor society. They wanted to make sure what they did were honorable. We kind of have the same thing, but this was like a big deal for them. So what they would do is they would prepare, give somebody a water or a bucket or a bowl that the guests can wash their feet. But here's the thing, that was what the guests would do, but the only individuals who would actually wash feet were servants. The only individual of people that would wash feet were servants. That they were the only ones that whether it was a master or maybe the master maybe had a servant and a guest would come, the only people that would wash the individual's feet were servants. So here it is. Jesus just makes this giant statement that I know who I am God, that I am the Messiah, that there is no confusion, that he's the teacher, he's master, he's Lord. But then he gets up from the table and begins to take the place of a servant. But you got to remember, this is also in the moment of inconvenience, stressing out. This isn't a moment where I would say, wow, you need to step out and serve or show yourself or care or love or supply. Like, no, you're in a really, really rock and a hard place. It's about to get really bad over the next couple of days. But it's out this giant expression of who God really is, man. And he says, or the next moment he makes is something of complete opposite, that Jesus, man, is breaking down social barriers and whatever other limitations that can stop or keep people from serving and loving one another. Last point is this, or the last thing that kind of really stood out, that's been kind of, I've been looking at, man, is this. Then he said, do you understand what I have done to you? You address me as teacher and master, and rightly so. That is what I am. So if I, the master and the teacher, washed your feet, you must now wash each other's feet. I've laid down a pattern for you. What I've done, you do. Here's what I love is Jesus at the end of this. Jesus, not just the act, but the whole idea that whether you're in an inconvenient place, whether you're in a hard place, or maybe you're in a place of high position, whether you're a master or a Lord or a teacher or whatever it may be, he says, look, Jesus instructed his followers to do the same thing. That no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, Jesus is the example that everyone's life, that all of our life should be positioned around serving others. That everyone's life should be positioned around serving others. And I've just been exploring and looking at this passage because when you look at the full context, there's so much more going on than him just washing someone's feet. But the message that he is sharing, man, is saying this, that whether it's a good time, a bad time, a hard time, a difficult time, a stressful time, an anxious time, in that moment, he says, look, there is still time. There is still a place. It is still, whether it's convenient, whether it's inconvenient, whether it's, like I said, all these areas, he says, look, you do as I do. That as followers of Jesus, and this is a struggle for me because like I said, I'm only willing to serve or to love or to care. If I've noticed is, like I said, when I'm good, when everything's okay with me, I'm good. I don't mind. Like, yeah, man, I'm a pastor. Look, here, man, no problem. Like, this is my job. Let me pray, or whatever it may be. But when it's really inconvenient, when it's really a struggle, when it's really difficult, or when I'm maybe going through a hard time, no matter what it may be, there's these things that come up, and I get to look and say, you know what, does this make financial sense? Instead of saying, God, how can I posture myself in a place of watching someone's feet? That even if I'm in the middle of a difficult time, even if I'm in the middle of a hard time, here's the reality. And this is, if there's anything you're going to write this down. And this is what God really kind of downloaded to me. And maybe this is for you. That for many of us, we must replace the pursuit of satisfaction and convenience for a posture of serving. That no matter what is going on, no matter how difficult it may be, no matter whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's up, whether it's down, whether money's tight, whether it's not, is that Jesus, even in the midst of this inconvenient, difficult time, said, man, you know what? I'm taking the posture of serving. Because here's the thing. What does this mean for us as we kind of look at this passage? Like I said, this has been a passage that's really kind of helped me walk through, and maybe it's kind of resonating like, wow, there is a lot going on in Jesus, and what does this mean for me as I deal with maybe some selfishness on the inside, or maybe this whole idea of convenience or self-satisfaction. The reality is, man, is our self-human nature will always want to focus on self. It will always try to pursue our self-satisfaction and convenience. Come here, Adam. It will always try to do that. Like our life will always, or like our human nature, if not careful. That's why I said, look, convenience isn't wrong. Convenience isn't necessarily a bad thing. What's bad is when it becomes the priority and our ability to serve and love the person next to us, love and serve the person around us or people, maybe the stranger, whatever it may be. If it's based on our place of comfortability, if it's based on our place of convenience, then we are not taking the posture that Jesus took. That we are not taking the attitude or perspective or the ideas that Jesus took. And look, I'm not saying don't use wisdom. What I am saying, though, is this, is that if it's going to be based off of human ideas or human thoughts or what maybe seems smart or what my financial, whatever it may be, look, we are missing the posture that Jesus had. We're missing the message that Jesus shared, man, when he was in the middle of all of that. And he said, you know what, I'm going to continue to love. I'm going to the cross in just a few days. The person that is sending me to the cross, the person that's betraying me, he didn't skip them when he washed their feet. He said, even in the midst, this is not just, so that means not strangers, that means enemies, that means the people that we love. It says, look, even in the midst of it, he took this posture of serving. And I love it because Jesus gives us another example of what our life should be driven by. That our life should not be driven by self-satisfaction and convenience. But we should come with this posture of serving. That we should come with this posture of serving. That Jesus suggests that our life's posture should be washing feet. I'm actually going to wash Adam's feet. Can I wash your feet, man? Of course, bro. I told him right before service. He didn't know, so hopefully you got to turn this way for me so they can see you. Because here's the reality. Here's the reality. Here's the thing. Here's why this posture is important. Here's why I love Jesus and I love Jesus for a lot of different reasons. But one thing about Jesus, man, he changed so many status quos. Like we have so many ideas of maybe what life should look like, what life should be like. This is okay here, this is okay there. And Jesus just comes and like kicks them all down. That we would say like, oh, if I'm having a bad day or if I'm in a stressful time, well, Jesus is giving me a pass. And he's saying, well, bro, do you remember where I was? And I'm not saying don't walk through and deal with some of these difficult seasons, man, but he says, man, what is your posture like? Are you in this pursuit of self-satisfaction? Are you in this posture of serving? Because here's what happens. Here's what happens. This posture is rarely ever convenient. This posture is rarely ever self-satisfying. This posture rarely ever benefits the person right here. So when we wait for moments of serving, when we wait for moments of giving when it's completely convenient, then we're missing the whole posture of this position in the first place. Because this position says, look, the person that's in this chair, I'm choosing to love, I'm choosing to serve, because this is what Jesus, who is our example, called us to do. Because this posture says that even if I don't have money to maybe necessarily go on a global trip, I'm going to serve. I'm going to posture myself for serving and see what Jesus can do. Or maybe my last experience wasn't that great, but I'm going to sign up to serve. Or maybe this posture says, you know what? I'm not really in a great place and I don't really feel like going down to Laura Woods, or I don't really feel like doing this Goodwill drive, or I don't really feel like maybe joining Welcome Home team. This posture says, you know what? It's not about my convenience. It's not about how I feel. It's not about me being satisfied. It's about me taking the posture of Jesus. That in the good, the bad, in the low, in the high, that I choose to be the posture of Jesus. That even when it's inconvenient and unsatisfying, even when sometimes I simply don't feel like it, this posture says, look, it's not about me. This posture says it's not about how I feel or what I want. I'm not saying don't let people take advantage of you. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is this posture says it has nothing to do with how I feel. It has nothing to do with what I maybe think or maybe this person. It doesn't matter. Jesus knew that Judas would betray him. And you know what his posture was? I'm going to serve you. His posture was, I'm going to love you. his posture was, is I'm going to continue to invest and pour in. He'd know in 4 days, your plan is going to be complete. So this is my question for us. And this is my question for me as I deal with this whole idea of my life being framed up on inconvenience. Now I got to go and like mess my room up. I'm like, well, the life is too easy. That we have to ask this question. Like, are we really, when maybe you find yourself like me, maybe you think, I'm a generous person. I bought this person this coffee and look, nice gesture. But when rubber meets the road, or it really gets in a difficult situation and we really have to look up, are we really taking the posture of Jesus? Are we really taking the posture of someone who serves and loves in inconvenient moments, in unsatisfied moments, in difficult seasons? And like I said, I'm not saying don't go get care. But what is our focus? What is our drive? That's what I want to leave you with, man. I want to leave you with this. And this is the thing that I'm wrestling with. I want to continue, and I'm going to invite you guys to wrestle with too, that we have to replace this pursuit of convenience with the posture of serving. Regardless how we feel, regardless what we think, regardless the lack of faith, whatever it may be, that God has called our community, our ministry to do some really, really, really cool things. But the reality is that if we don't have the posture of serving, we don't have I love it because he challenges his disciples. He says, look, what you've seen me do, you do. And when we stop, not that we can stop the gospel, we hinder what ministry or what God can do or how God may want to serve or reach or impact from your service, or how may God want to reach or impact. So I want to encourage you. This isn't a church thing. This is at your home. This is at your work. This is at your school. God, how can I posture myself? How can I posture myself for my teacher or my classmate? You don't got to go back in. You can. You want another one?
No.
How can I posture myself? And when I come into this community, how can I posture myself? That person sitting next to you. Hey, how can I posture myself in this way of washing your feet? Why don't you pray with me? Jesus. God, messages like this, man, are something that kind of just, you look in the mirror, you kind of just, you go, oh my gosh, ow. But God, what I do want to thank you. I want to say thank you, God, that you love us so much, that you care for us so much, and that you created us in your image, and you want us to look like you so bad that sometimes that we have to look ourselves in the mirror and have really hard conversations. We have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, wow, like, is that me? And God, if that is us, and I know it's not everybody, some of these people, man, are just, some of my brothers and sisters are really just the most generous people, loving people, and it's amazing. But God, for those of us that maybe our heart, it's like, no, you know what? That does sound like me. I'm only love when it's easy. I only give when it doesn't really, take from me, or it doesn't really cost me or sacrifice anything. God, I pray that you would just continue to help our hearts. I know that you still love us and you still care for us and you still shape us and mold us. But God, I pray that you would just touch us. Lord, that you would let the mind that was in Christ be in us. Lord, that you would give us your heart for others and for the world and for strangers, God. And even as you watch Judas's feet, maybe for the enemy. God, that you would may allow us to think like you think, God. That we would love like you love. So God, we thank you. We love you, and it's in your son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, guys, give it up for Jesus.